know if there's anything you want to add to that, but that's kind of the attitude, at least I went into launch with.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, cool. So the big thing is you had a wait list that, if I remember, it was a manifesto page, right? Like a landing page that explained your thoughts about how work should be done.
Mhm.
And there was an email opt-in. And I think the big thing that people probably noticed, and I'm sure many people here saw that page and opted in on that page, was that you didn't just thank people after they joined. You didn't just say, cool, you're on the list. I just sent you an email. Like you did something a bit different. And that was you found out, you did a deep dive into who people were. So what was your thinking around like the questions? I know you talked about some people are new, some people are established and so on, but what are the different things you wanted to learn about people who were joining the creator and media waitlist?
Yeah, the first thing, and this, I'll just touch on this before I answer your question, which I think will be helpful for a lot of folks who are launching a product, is when I launched this, the landing page was just a text-based manifesto. So there weren't like bells and whistles or pictures or testimonials or, here's what you're going to get or an agenda or anything. It was literally a written text manifesto. It started off, once upon a time you had a job. That's how it started. And it was like 3 or 4 paragraphs. And then it was cheers, Justin, in an email capture. So like, if you're going to launch something, I think I like to use the back end of like a wait list, which is the email and the personalization and the segmentation, to really do the selling versus the registration page. So I created this simple registration page and we used a survey. And the things that I wanted to learn were, some of them were obvious, some of them were less so, but we made some hypotheses. And the first guess that we made was that people would probably fall into one of 2 buckets on their primary goal, which was, do you want to grow an audience or do you want to grow a business? I think that was like our very first question. And that helped kind of bifurcate people into 2 different buckets. Were they people who had no audience and like needed to start there, or were they people who had an audience and they wanted to start growing that audience into a business? And from kind of that point forward, I wanted to collect more sort of really granular pieces of data that I could use to both understand who the people were on the waiting list, but also speak to them in a language that was efficient and effective. So I collected things like, what kind of products or services do you sell? Is it courses, consulting, coaching? Is it a SaaS product? What is it, right? Where do you market your product? X, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube. Is it just yourself or do you have a team? Are you full-time or part-time? What's your biggest challenge? We had like growing a valuable audience, finding more time, building better systems, hiring better people. Like we had all of this data and information. And the goal was twofold. It was to make it robust enough where I captured information that let me do 2 things. 1, understand the audience better. 2, speak to them better. And the second thing that I wanted to do was just make this really easy for people to get through. So I didn't want to ask them 15 to 18 questions. I wanted to ask them, I think, 6 or 7 different questions that you and I created on like a little logic tree. So they never kind of got more than 6 or 7 questions based on how they answered. And that was the beginning of how this all came together.
Yeah. And one to go deeper into that, the questions were, I call it nonlinear. I know that's technical, but the questions were conversational. You would answer, you're looking to build like an audience, and it would ask you about your motivation around building an audience. You wouldn't get questions about how you plan on making money or anything like that.
Right.
And it was very, I look at it as almost like if you go into a hospital and the nurse is asking you kind of rapid fire questions about your situation. The job there is to quickly profile you and to find out like, where do you need to be sent to? Or is it a big emergency, or is this something you can wait in the waiting room for a while? Yeah. And I think that's kind of what we wanted to do here, was just like, it wasn't just like a 10 question form. It was a kind of a conversation that new subscribers went through.
Right. If this, then that, really is what it was.
Exactly. And we got a lot of great data. I mean, this screenshot I'll give you, I'll need to mention, this is the last few days of your data today. So it's not there's not going to be massive numbers here, but just to give people an idea of what we were doing is when people completed the post opt-in survey. So you join the waitlist, you see the page like what I just had on the screen. and you would click buttons. There was no fill-in forms. It was just multiple choice kind of things. When you answered these questions, that data got sent up to your email record in Justin's Kit account. And this is kind of a dashboard view of the reporting of that. But that's what enabled everything, because we could then say in Kit, like, oh, now we know not just a first name, not just an email address. We know what stage their business is at, how they make money. Like you said, do they have a team or not? And all this data was then used to enrich. I think it was 80+% of people, I think, on the wait list. I mean, most people did the survey, which I think is testament to how you phrased it. I mean, this is obviously the new newsletter survey that you have up currently, but it was very similar. It was like, I want to make sure the Creator MBA is exactly what you need it to be. Can you spare 15 seconds? And like you said, it was a very easy to answer, just tap button kind of thing. So I think that worked really well. I think people appreciated that, and it obviously worked well in the getting people to do the thing.
Yeah, and I think one thing that I just like to point out to everyone that I think is really important is the way that we collect the data and the way that the software works is helpful in many different ways, but in two really big umbrella ways. The first way it's helpful 3 ways. The first way is it obviously segments and it helps me personalize. We'll talk about that throughout the entire thing. But the second thing that is really helpful is it gives you an overarching view of your email list. So you have a massive amount of data on what the total of your email list looks like. How many people, in my case, sell courses? This is a perfect example. Do coaching. How many people have an audience or have been trying to build one? Are they part-time, full-time? All that stuff is the aggregate total. So you get to see an overarching snapshot of your audience, which of course is helpful. Helps you write better blog posts and newsletters and create better products and better social content. But also it comes down to the individual person's record. So if I want to go see Mark Smith's record, I can also see exactly what he answered. So it's not just sort of pie in the sky stuff. It's also on an individual person basis, which is why it's so powerful and why I like that.
Yeah. And that's again what enables personalization. Because I think, it's funny, like I've been doing personalized marketing. I've been in this space for about a decade now. And I've never talked to anybody who has said, you know what, I think generic messaging is always going to be better than specific. Everyone wants to make it so when you send an email, it directly connects to the people on the receiving end. The missing piece, though, is that you can't do that without segmentation data. And that's why we started with this. We started with, you get on the list, you share a bit about you and your goals, and then we're going to use that going forward to make it so the content you get from you would be more in line with them and their needs. My friend Jonah Weeb is a really good copywriter who runs Copy Hackers. She described it as relevance and resonance. So, the end goal is you want the content to be relevant to people by sending, if they're starting a business, you want it to be about starting. If it's scaling, it's about scaling. But ultimately that is going to lead to resonance, and resonance is what gets people to buy. So that's kind of why we started with the segmentation upfront. And I saw something in the chat about somebody was asking like the process. Yes, you would opt in, and then you would get to that survey that I showed here. And again, 80-something% of people did that. So you had, I forgot how many data points, but it's tens of thousands of data points that were captured just through building up the wait list. So you got to about 18,000. Do you remember the exact amount? It was something like that.
18,500. I think people ended up on the waiting list or the registration list, which is, probably around what I expected, about 7 to 10% of the total audience. Yeah.
So why didn't you just build up a wait list and then go away for a few months and build the course and then just show back up and sell it?
Yeah, I had this and I think this came from probably coming up to visit you in the UK. I had done launches before and probably did it more similar to how you just described. But my thought process with this was, and again, this was through conversation with you and guys like Matt, was the goal of the personalized email cadence in being there every week or twice a week for, I think, 3 months, right? I think we were there nonstop in people's inbox once a week, maybe
November
for
through
3
January.
months. The goal was to deliver such granular information, such personal information, and to answer what we hypothesized would be the most frequently asked questions during the email sequence leading up to the course. And then you and I talked about it when we sent the last email, which was like, hey, the cart is now open. The goal was for people to already know whether they were buying or not. Like, nobody should have gotten the cart email open and said, I'm kind of on the fence. Now, I'm sure there were folks who were there, but we wanted to make sure that was as few as possible. We wanted people to either say, I've read all of these emails and this course speaks to me. It's going to solve my problems. They've answered all my questions. I can't wait to buy. Or this does not speak to me. It does not solve my problems and I will not be buying. Those were actually our two best outcomes that we were hoping for. Everyone who was a fence sitter, that was our goal, was to try not to get them there. Now, of course, as I mentioned, some folks did. And we carried on through the selling week by trying to answer those questions as well. But that was the real goal of why I did it that way.
Yeah, and this is something I think I want to deconstruct, because this is something, again, very unorthodox, very unusual. You did things conventional wisdom says you shouldn't do. You unveiled your pricing before people could buy. You
Correct.
unveiled your plans before it was anything to buy. You talked about what would be in it, and you kind of wrestled out loud with the wait list about, like, humming and hawing over, do I talk about this? Do I include this? I think you even decided to, through the feedback, add new modules just based on the fact that people were engaging with these emails. And these are the subjects of the emails that you can see in here. But you can see we sent emails about the price. We sent emails about how Creator MBA fits alongside LinkedIn OS and Content OS. It was very transparent, I think, is probably the best way of putting it. And I think it worked really well because, like you said, people, and we don't have hard proof of this, I'll give you that, but people, I think, really felt invested in the success of the product. They felt like they were a part, from the construction phase of the product. They were there and you were listening to them and you were asking questions in every single one of these emails that would ask for feedback. You'd say, like, what do you think about my pricing? What do you think about the list of lessons I'm including? Like, you were very open with that stuff. And I think ultimately it worked well.
One of the best things it did, to give you guys an example of, like, very specific, I had made a guess that because of the price point of the course, I think we launched at $549, that it would probably be out of range for people who had not started anything yet, who hadn't started building an audience or hadn't started building a business, that it might be just outside of what they wanted to spend. And that was my guess. And as I sent the emails out, not only did we have the buttons that you could click, but at the last question was a free form text capture. And so as we captured the text, I piped all that text into whatever version of ChatGPT it was at that time, or Claude, or whatever it was, some very early version, and just basically said, here's the agenda that I'm having in the course. Here's all the free form text. Where is there a gap in what I'm creating? And the big gap, surprisingly, was this question that people asked: what if I'm someone who's starting from scratch? And I was like, oh, I hadn't considered that. I had actually thought that would not be a buyer. So after I saw that, and after that became clear that that was an actual, at least interested person in the course, I took the course and distilled it down into a smaller course called How to Start from Scratch. And I was able to then share that with anyone who had freeform texted that as, like, a way to kind of say, hey, I know you asked about this. Well, good news, it's in there. So that's just one of many specific examples of the data that I collected.
Yeah, on screen right now is exactly one of those emails, like the end of one of these emails. I think we call them action steps, right? Like, every email had an action step, which would usually be a reply. So, like, as you can see here, hopefully everyone can read the screen okay, but it's like, what are you doing, if anything, to build feedback loops? So we had an email about how you're using the behind the scenes email to learn more from the audience, and you're surveying to learn more about the audience and use this as a way to kind of strengthen the offer, or strengthen the product, I should say, based on the feedback. So, the development of the course was largely a reaction to what people were telling you. So, we'd send an email about that. And at the end, we'd ask, how are you learning from your customers or your audience? And I remember, I think, you and your wife were just kind of like aggregating all of this into spreadsheets. And we were just combing through that and thinking like, okay, what does this mean about the product? What does this mean about the emails? How do we make our launch emails better? Because the thing about launch emails or sales emails, you kind of have one shot to launch, right?
Yeah.
So we wanted to say, like, could we test bits and pieces of the messaging before we're asking people to, check out and buy? And I think that's kind of what we were subtly doing through all this.
For sure.
Yeah. So again, we did this. If you look at the timestamps, I mean, starting in November, we launched right after the week of like the 11th or 12th of January, I think. It was something like around then-ish.
Yeah, something
So
like that.
yeah, this was a 3-month sequence. I think we had a few breaks for like Thanksgiving, maybe, and Christmas, but otherwise it was pretty much weekly. So this complemented your Saturday newsletter. So you had this go out, I think, on Wednesday. Wednesday. And then this would just kind of complement and this would only obviously go out to waitlist people. So, this is, I think, is a really good idea. If you're launching something new, the worst thing you can do is, and I've seen this time and time again, is like, I think we forget that other people don't care. So if I hear about this cool new product that's being built and I join an email list for it, and then I forget about it and go back to what I was doing, and then the founder or somebody comes back a few months later saying, oh, by the way, we're live, come by. And I'm like, who is this? Right. So I think that's why it was so good that you kind of kept in touch throughout, and you had this pre-selling effectively sequence go on.
Yeah. And like part of, I think, what was really important is maybe some of you are thinking through, like, and I know I felt this, which is like when you blast your list once a week outside of your newsletter. I already have a newsletter that goes out once a week. You worry about unsubscribes. You worry about kind of killing your list. And so instead of just bombing my list, I think Ash put it in there where he said carpet bombing the list. I put up a registration or interest page. And so I only sent emails to those people that said they were interested, and for kind of skipped everyone who said they weren't, right? And then if someone became interested later in the sequence, they could sign up, get the newest email, and at the bottom of those emails was a history of the emails they had missed. So we could do it really in a really pleasant way where we weren't, bombarding someone's emails, because I know I hate getting just massive launch emails every day, and we wanted to avoid that.
Yeah. And I think it worked well. And I know the feedback you got proved that this worked well. And the spike of revenue when we opened cart also, I think, showed that this did a lot of selling, because that's what effectively this did for us. Okay, now the thing that I think everyone's here for is how did we use the data to make money, and what impact did it have? So I think, I'm not sure how many people here have done email launches before, but they're usually, I think, pretty formulaic in the sense of, you've got a new product, you do an announcement email, and then you have a few emails that are meant to cover common questions, showcase a story of somebody, and just kind of like do your usual thing to kind of build. And you're going to see a lot of these in a few weeks with Black Friday. Like, it used to be a one-day thing. Everyone's now doing it as like a month-long thing. And I just looked at a big creator who is doing like a daily email for 2 weeks. This kind of thing of, building up excitement and interest and stuff, and then having a window where you get a discount or a bonus, or it's not available after launch. This is usually what a lot of people who are selling online do, but they tend to be, if there's personalization, it's putting a first name at the top of the email. It's like, hey, Justin. And then the rest is the same for everyone. And I know, Justin, your background is also in sales. And back when I used to sell offline, I wasn't reading off a script. I wasn't,
Right.
if I was meeting with somebody to try to sell them, I would I had an internal script, but it would be modified on the fly based on what are they telling me? What do I know about them? What industry are they in? How are they like, are they engaged? Are they naturally kind of putting up their guard? And all that kind of fed into real-time personalization of my offer. But usually when you do things online, it's just kind of spray and play. It's just or spray and pray, where you just hope it connects. So I want to get into like how we personalize things. So I think the thing I want to mention, and again, I want to hear a lot about your thought process here, Justin, but like we settled on two different things that we really wanted to focus in on. The first was, what kind of business do they run or want to run? And the second was, where are they at? Are they aspirationally wanting to start a business? Are they side hustling, or are they full-time? And those were the two dimensions that we really focused on. And again, if you can see my screen, you can see these. If you were on the receiving end, you probably had no idea this is going on. But the left is somebody who is a coach. The right is somebody who is a service provider, like an agency. And you can see it's not just swapping out the word coach. Like we're reshaping the story, the message of the email itself, to speak directly to. I think what we did here was, because you Justin have experience coaching, you have experience obviously selling courses, you have experience in a service company, and you have experience in software. So
Yeah.
you were able to kind of show how you get people. You could empathize with them by saying, look, I know what it's like to, before I went and became a full-time course creator, I was coaching startup founders, corporate execs, and so on and so forth. And I think these really helped show people that you get them and that this product has people like them in mind.
And to make it really simple for folks who may not understand how this works, I'll make it really easy. I wrote an email, and the email was the same email, but all I did was say, in this one section, I want to talk about coaching businesses. And in this one section, I want to talk about my experience related to that. So for example, if you look at the one on the left, it says, I thought today I'd share with you how I see the Creator MBA helping your coaching business. Whereas on the right, it says, I thought I'd share with you how I see the Creator MBA helping your service business. And then if you move to the bottom of each of those emails, the one on the left, before I went all in on selling courses, I was coaching. The one on the right, before I started selling courses, I sold consulting to healthcare startups. Both of those things are true. They happened at different times, but they're both true experiences. So I was able to speak to somebody who was literally at the exact same point that I was at. And so that becomes not only personal, but it becomes extremely relevant. And that's why I think these personalized emails converted at such a significantly higher rate than the folks who never fill out a survey and got the generic stuff.
Yeah, and we'll unveil that rate in a second too. And one thing I want to talk about really quickly is, you mentioned these small snippets. One pushback I hear about this constantly is people are like, "Oh, I'm going to write a 7-email launch sequence. Does this mean I need to write like 5 different 7-email launch sequences, or 10 different ones, or however many different combos there are?" And I think what you just said really hits the nail on the head. You changed, it was same email, 95% is the same. Maybe in this one, it's a little less than that, but you would swap out a sentence, or maybe a paragraph, or a
Yep.
few words based on a data point that you captured.
That's right.
Yeah. So another example of a different email we sent was, if you were looking to start a business, how would the email you got change depending on if you wanted to scale your business? So I remember what we did here was, I think, really clever, in that the Creator MBA had content about finding a business idea, about validating it. And then it also had stuff about systems and scaling and hiring and everything in between. And the fact is, somebody who's looking to start a business, they don't care about hiring. They just want to get a customer.
Yeah.
Whereas somebody who is already full-time, they want to delegate. They want to, build systems and stuff. Same product does both. And that, I think, is where a lot of people who have a wider audience, or have a product that serves multiple types of people really screw up. Because the fact of the matter is, if you are saying, look, whether you want to start a business or scale a successful business, I can help. That plants doubt. Because I personally, if you're going on and I see a bunch of new people and language about like starting from scratch, if I'm already somewhat like looking to scale, that to me is a red flag.
Yeah.
And I think by doing it this way, you were able to kind of, get away from that. So what did you think about like I mean, obviously this took extra time. I think it didn't take much time, which is what surprises a lot of people.
Yeah.
But I think this is the thing that I think really set this launch apart from what most people do. Because again, most people are just putting a first name and that's the extent of it. We're going to get into things about what we do differently if we could go back in time and do this again, because I'm really curious, Justin, to hear your perspective of that. But one thing I want to mention next is that, people don't buy from the email. They click on that link, that blue link that says the Creator MBA, and they go to a sales page. I'll skip over this slide. We went as far as to make it so the sales page people click through would change also. And I think this is another thing that people, like every time I demo this feature of write message to people, they're like, wait, you can do this? But one thing we did is, if we're talking to you over email as a coach, and we're talking to you as a coach who wants to start a company, you come to the website to look at the sales page to buy. That same messaging carried over. And I think, again, that's that kind of continuity, that holistic approach is really what made this work so well. I don't know if you have anything you want to add before we get to the big unveil about the results.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, the way I think about it is the continuity of message. And so I think someone wrote in and said, is this an A/B test? And it's not really an A/B test. It is using the same data points that we collected from the survey, identifying their ConvertKit record, and then having all the emails be personalized. So it talks about coaching or where you're at or courses, or if you're starting or existing business. And then we piped that through to the landing page. And using Write Message, we just simply edited the header and the subheader to speak directly to those people. The fear that I had was we would send these really personalized emails. How to make, like, hey, Joe, I know you have a business already and you're talking about making it more efficient and profitable. Click here to buy the course, right? And they go and it says how to start a business. It's like those two messages don't connect, right? So instead, I want to see Joe go to the website and say, like it says on the left, learn how to make your existing internet business more efficient and profitable. Versus if someone says they have a large following and they're trying to become more of a thought leader, we want them to see the message on the right alongside with all of the personalized emails that have been nudging them, being very specific throughout the course of our launch. When they get to the landing page, we want to shout that same message loud and clear. And so that's what we did using Write Message. And so I think we had, I don't know, 3 or 4 different variables that we changed or interchanged after a while. It might have been more. This is more the technical side, which is you. But we made sure that when they landed on the page, we thought we did the best job of converting them from that landing page to clicking the buy button.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't change much. I think, again, this is what throws people off, is we mostly focused on the stuff at the top of the page.
Yeah.
The things people skim over. Like we would say, okay, we want to, you skim long pages. I mean, that's what we do. The job of these headlines is to get people to stop and read this small text. So keep the small text, but just change the headlines to be reflective of, again, what they shared, their pain points and their situation and everything like that. Cool. So that was basically what we did. Personalized launch emails that were very dialed in. There was something, I think, it wasn't much. There were 15 possible combinations, I think, of the launch emails. And then you got to the sales page and same kind of continuity. And what that did, and this probably took, back then it took a while. Nowadays, with improvements we've made to Write Message along with AI, it probably would take 10, 15 hours of extra time.
Yeah.
But the long and short of it is we did an A/B test. So somebody asked about A/B testing. We actually did an A/B test officially over everything. So of everyone on the wait list, we explicitly said 15% of you are not going to get any personalizations. You're just going to get the default emails that we were going to send. You're going to get the default website that Justin made in Webflow, and everyone else would get the personalized stuff. So it was a 15-85% split. On the left side, you can see that the purchase rate of the 15% that did not get any personalizations was 8.69%, which is still very good. So 8.69% of all people in that kind of sublist bought, which resulted in a value per subscriber of $64. However, the personalized group, they purchased at 12.01%, which came out to be $87.63 per subscriber, which basically meant for what nowadays would take 10, 15 more hours, probably total of largely copywriting. You added 38% or about $650,000 to the launch, which, I mean, to me, that's a good ROI on time. But I think it's one of these things. It's like, it's not black magic. Again, you would have had significantly more conversions if you could have talked to every single person on the wait list on Zoom. You can't do that though, right? So this is, in my mind, the meet in the middle approach.
Yeah, it was really interesting.
I don't know if there's anything you want to add about that.
Yeah, I mean, I knew from the beginning that the segmented list was going to perform, right? Like, I didn't have to guess that, but I thought it was, and we made this decision together, that it was worth holding back some folks to prove it, right? Number one, to ourselves,
Yep.
But also to understand, like, how can we use the data we collect to extrapolate future results, right? So if we know what the unpersonalized conversion rate looks like, and we know what the personalized conversion rate looks like, I can start to say in the future, if I launch X and I get Y amount of people in this list and Z amount of people in this list, I can start to at least guesstimate revenue. I can guesstimate average revenue per user. It allows me to tailor my launches and understand my expectations, because you said, is 38% good? 38% is great unless you're expecting a 75% increase. So this was also a really good way to, like, understand expectations for the future, so that you're not either shocked in a good way, which is always good, or disappointed, which is always bad.
Yeah. Yeah. No, agreed. And I think I was talking to somebody the other day about kind of how we look at numbers in isolation, right? We look at, some sale amount. Like, if we wouldn't have done that A/B test, if we wouldn't have held back that 15%, we would have had no idea, did the stuff actually work?
Yeah.
So that's why it's important, I think. And we
Yeah.
built this in the right message, for what it's worth, to make this easier for people. But it did mean you lost money by doing that A/B test, unfortunately.
Sorry.
But it is what it is. Overall, I mean, were you happy overall with how it panned out?
Yeah, it was great. Like, it was the ending was like, oh, that was amazing. Like, I didn't think it would go that well. It was really shocking to see the results, because I didn't know what the lift would be on the personalization side. So it was, when you put the number in total, in context, which was an extra 650 on the launch, that to me was, like, very mind-boggling. I mean, if I think about, like, were there any times where I was nervous because I hadn't done that before, or I thought maybe an email could go out and not say the right thing? Like, there were certainly nerves throughout the process, but it all went off without a hitch. And I mean, luckily, now with some of the new stuff that you've built in, it kind of lets users almost have like an AI Brennan almost inside of the application.
Well,
And
it makes
so,
me redundant, frankly.
yeah,
It makes it so you don't need to hire me.
yeah, great.
No, that's great. Yeah. Yeah. I think the thing I would say about the launch was, and I think you heard this from people, it was tasteful, because it was precise. It was relevant. It was specific to them, which that's why people bought, because they got an email from you. It would be relatable to them. So they were more likely to check out the sales page, and the sales page was more relatable. They're more likely to click the buy now button. I mean, that's all we did, basically, is we made everything more relevant.
And one thing I want to touch on, I see some comments in the chat, and I think it's really important to understand something. Like people say, and some folks are saying, like you probably need a really large list for this to be meaningful. And I would suggest that's not true. And the reason that I would suggest it's not true is to put yourself in the shoes of someone who is buying something, and you walked into a store and you're looking for a black size 11 pair of Air Jordans, and you walk into the store and you say, do you have any basketball shoes? I'm looking for a black size 11 pair of Air Jordans. And they bring you over and say, we have that exact pair right here. It's size 11, they're color black, and they're Air Jordans. Versus you walk into a shoe store and someone says, we've got shoes. Come over here. There are shoes here. You're like, one, I'm looking for a very specific thing. Like, it doesn't matter if you're selling to 10 people or 20 people or 200 people. Personalizing works, right? Like, we know that from our everyday buying experience. It's why companies spend lots of money on retargeting and personalization. It's why I can talk to my wife about a specific kind of dog food for our dogs. I open up Instagram and there's an advertisement for it, right? Like, getting specific works. Yep. Regardless of list size. Yes, of course, the larger your list, the more of a heavier outcome you'll have. But I would always say that, like, personalization matters. And I think if you plan on growing your list over time, it will always matter. That's my thought on it.
I think it also depends on what you're selling. One of my first jobs was, I was a teenager selling website design. First client was a yacht company. And they were like, we just want one customer a year. You know, like, you get one customer, that yacht company's set for the year. So I think it also depends on kind of the what you're selling. You know, obviously, if you're selling $10 ebooks and you have no one in your list, you know, is it probably overcomplicated to do this kind of stuff? Yeah, probably. But it's situational based on what you're selling, average order value, lifetime value, all that kind of stuff. Okay, so we're going to get into Q&A in a second. We've got about a little over 10 minutes left, but I wanted to hear really quickly if there's anything you would have wanted to do differently, knowing what we know today, and assuming we could transport modern day right message back, you know, 3 years ago or however long it was. What would we do differently?
I probably would have made the wind up, like the lead up to the course, longer. Not the selling emails, not those. I think I would have started talking about it maybe eight months in advance. And it might seem like that's a really weird thing to think about, because you're thinking, okay, well, you start talking about something and 8 months later it comes out, and like, does anyone even remember? But because we were speaking to people on a regular cadence, and because every email was personalized specifically to their problems or where they were in their business or what kind of business they ran, I felt like every time we sent out a touch point, I can't prove this, but I felt like one of two things happened. More people moved towards saying yes, or more people moved towards saying no. And that was the goal of the launch. And so I think I would have had more lead up, because it would have given me more time to really personalize it effectively. And I also think it would have given me a longer time to build up a wait list. And then lastly, it would have given me a little bit more time at the end to add any bells or whistles that I discovered through some of the data that I collected. Whereas I was able to add the build from scratch course and a few other things. But I think I would have liked a little bit of that extra time. I think the modern day version of Right Message would have allowed maybe me to do a lot more of this versus, you know, relying on you for some of the technical aspects. I know how Right Message works now, and it's pretty easy for me to use. But those are some things I would think about.
Yeah, cool. I would add what I would do differently, because I've now seen a lot more launches like this, is I think the mistake we made was not digging into challenges and what you call their dream state enough. So we focused on what they sell and what their stage is. We didn't get into why, right? We got that data, but we never used it. And the last launch I was somewhat involved in, their lift was 102%, doing focusing more on the motivational stuff. So I think, like, going back, you know, with the goal of how do we make that 38%, 100+%, would have been 100% focused on getting psychological things like finding out what have they tried so far, why haven't they done it, and what does it mean for them to fix the problem at hand, and then making everything else like what they sell more of a supporting bit of personalization. We also only did 15 variations of the email. I think these days, with most of the things people are doing now with right message emails, we don't send emails, but we personalize emails in your email platform. We're seeing often hundreds or thousands of variants, which just really let you micro personalize in a way that just makes everything like a letter for one, which is kind of the end goal. Cool. So let's get into Q&A. I do want to mention one thing for anyone who's watching live. If you're watching the replay, sorry. I did mention that I'm going to be giving something to anyone who stayed here. So this QR code is not it, but I'm going to be emailing everyone who attended live, because I know this data, a link to a Google Doc that is all the AI prompts necessary for figuring out your segmentation strategy for personalizing emails and also personalizing websites. So it's meant to be used alongside Right Message, but these tools could be used really, frankly, outside of it too, if you wanted to. But these prompts I've used many, many times with many different people. They're really rock solid. I'm going to send you after this an email with all those Google Doc links, along with, I'm going to put together a little video on how to use them. So that's your gift, if you will, for staying live. But otherwise, if you scan the QR code or go to that link, if you're interested in personalizing like Justin, if you want to get into doing segmenting your email list and better understanding your audience and using, frankly, the software Justin and others like Ali Abdal, Chris Donnelly, Eric Partiger, and others use, we've put together an offer that is just going to go through, I believe it's Sunday. It's 2 days from now. And what we're doing is really 3 different things. So one thing Justin did that I liked about your launch, Justin, you had 3 tiers: do it yourself, done with you, or do it together, and done for you. Kind of was the model we had.
Yeah.
And that's basically what we did with the offer that's on screen now. So if you sign up for Right Message today, you will get my course Segment with Surveys, which is usually $300. You will get that free just by joining the monthly plan. That gives you the full.
Do you have the pricing page?
software.
I don't see it, Jim.
If you go to that link, it shows the pricing there. So that's going to be based on the bottom tier. It does, frankly, depend on your traffic, but assuming you have less than 10,000 unique people a month to your website, you would be eligible for that. If not, it'll be slightly more. But if you go to rightmessage.com/pricing, you can see our pricing. It's all public. It's transparent. But the middle tier, which is something I'm really excited about, is if you buy an annual plan of Right Message. I'm starting an accelerator that I'm hosting on December 2nd. It's going to be a 3-week accelerator that's meant to get you from like 0 to fully personalized hero. Basically, the stuff like when Justin flew to the UK to spend time, a few days with me, he was like, "Why don't you do this for others?" So this is a group version of what I did for Justin at my home for a few days, and it's going to be a 3-week process where we will get you fully set up with segmenting your audience, figuring out what to ask them, how to best ask it. I saw a question in passing about like low survey completion rates. You should be getting 70, 75, 80% of all people, all new leads segmenting themselves. If you're not, your survey's bad. And the presentation of your survey is probably bad. That's going to be what we're aiming for. I'm going to walk you through personalizing your relevant email campaigns and also personalizing your website. So it's a 3-week program. I'm kicking it off December 2nd. And that's available for new customers who sign up for the annual plan, which also gives you 2 months free of Right Message. So it's a good deal. And then on the high end, if you are somebody like Justin Welsh, who's like, screw the video course, I'm not going to go through that. I just want Brennan. And there's a high end offer, which I will personally work with you to get everything up and running. So if you go to the link, that page describes more. I'll let you look at that while I go through questions, but obviously, if you have any questions about any of those offers, ask it and Laura will get to it. So we have a few minutes left. So I'm going to try to get through as many of these as I can. My Google Doc is very long. Okay, cool. So if it's fine, I'm just going to rapid fire through some questions, Justin. And if there's anything that I think you could contribute, I'll ask you about them.
Cool. Awesome.
Okay. So a few people asked about how do you make people want to answer the surveys? I think the thing you need to do, and I have a lot of data to show this. The mistake people make is, I go on a flight, I get an email from the airline saying, how did we do? I've never done that survey. And I haven't done it because it doesn't benefit me at all. How you get people to do surveys is you don't make it a survey. You make it a tool that helps them get better stuff from you. So the framing is, if they're joining your email list, I want to make sure I get you exactly what you need and nothing more. Can you spare 15, 20 seconds? And that's it. It needs to be why they're doing it, so it helps them. And then you need to time box it. So take you 15 seconds, 20 seconds, whatever it's going to take. And the first question needs to be easy. Where people screw up is the first question is like a big text area, or it's a really weighty question with a lot of different options and it's verbose. The best things like Justin had are you here for your business or to build an audience? Or yes, no question. Ali Abdal's first question, do you want to be more productive this year? Yes or no? Everyone clicks yes, but that first question is critical for getting people into the door and going through the rest of the survey. How do you figure out the questions? Use my prompt, or if you go and join, you'll get the Segment with Surveys course. And that course also is for every tier. So if you join the 2 higher tiers, that course is included. The prompt will help you. The course is a deep dive into what kind of questions you should ask, what order, statistically, how to make it so they're more likely to get engaged with and answered. And most importantly, how to make sure you're getting data that you actually are going to use, not just interesting data. You want data that you can use to personalize. Who would not be a good fit for right message? Frankly, if you don't really know what I wouldn't recommend joining if you're so early that you're like, I don't even have a website or an email list. Like we augment, we're not a foundational tool, if this makes sense. So we're not like an email platform or a website platform where you should have those day one. We come in and say, look, you're getting leads, but you need to know more about them so you can sell to them better. And that's really where we shine. In terms of when it makes sense, like I said before, depends on your price point, depends on the volume that you're pushing through. Take something like 38%, apply that to how much money you made over email over the last year. If that outweighs the cost of right message plus the time, then it probably makes sense for you. AI integration, yes. So right message has a ton, this is new over the last year, a ton of AI tooling within it. So one thing we didn't get to talk about is all the data coming in, this fire hose of data about Justin's audience. He can go in and see social media post ideas, newsletters he should write about, pain points people are sharing, questions he's not asking that he should be asking. All of that is available in his idea well, which is what we call it. And that is all based on using AI to look at all the raw data he's receiving. So it's a mixture of structured data, but also the free form data. And all of that is used to, I think Justin used that to give you ideas about what to write about too. But that's
For sure.
something AI has made very easy. Would I recommend segmentation day one? I think so, because it's very hard to back segment people. You saw this, Justin, when you tried to back segment your list before right message.
Yep.
Yeah, it's very difficult. It's best to do it right away.
Because they're not getting anything for it, whereas when you do it on the fly, they're getting something for it,
Yep, exactly. I know we're at top of the hour, so I'll be quick, but there's a sentiment of overwhelm, not knowing where to begin. So the middle offer is probably best for you, the done with you offer, where I will help you get going in a group setting, just like I did with Justin. That's that middle offer. But we do have partners who are agencies, and I think a few of them are here now, and we are always happy to match make. So if you write into us and say, look, here's what we need. We need help with copy. We need help with strategy. Oh, and we need help with the right message side of things too. We can point you in the right direction and get you paired up with the right people. And there was a question from Melanie about, do we have a certified expert program? Yes, we are building up our agency program, which is right now invite only, but we will soon be making a proper way of kind of getting into that and becoming a certified expert. Ads. Okay, so somebody asked about ads. We didn't even talk about this, but one thing you could do, we showed about personalizing a sales page. You can also personalize a landing page that you're driving ads to. One of the favorite use cases of Right Message is you've got a bunch of ads, you drive them to a single landing page that then adapts in real time to the ad that was clicked on. So if they click on an ad targeting a certain type of person with a certain message, your one landing page changes to reflect what they clicked on in the targeting. So instead of having like 50 different landing pages that you're needing to maintain and it's a pain, you have a single landing page that adapts. So our tech can be used for sales pages, but also for the pages you're driving paid traffic to. So that's a really good way of reducing your ad overhead and getting more leads per ad spend. Okay, so we're at the top of the hour. I don't want to keep everyone longer than they need to be. There's a few other questions that I won't have time to get to, but I will send a follow-up email with the resources I promised. This offer goes through Sunday, so please join. If you're planning on doing it, join soonish, just because I'm not going to send it. I'm not going to hammer you with emails, but if you miss the boat, you miss the boat. And I will send an email trying to get through each one of these questions in depth, along with anything else that is being asked now. Just because I know a lot of you have questions about how all this works. But Justin, this has been amazing. Thank you, man.
Yeah, super fun, man. Thanks always for being a partner.
Of course, of course.
Yeah.
And yeah, if anyone needs us for anything, we're accessible online. So just feel free to reach out, and we're always happy to help. But thank you all for coming. This has been really, really good.
See you guys.
See you guys. Bye-bye.